Well, here we are in our garden, and we are well into the month of September, and I'm really far behind. The hottest part of the summer is definitely behind us, thank goodness, but it is time to harvest a lot of this. And today, I'm gonna give that a good start. So I was able to harvest the potatoes a few weeks back, and you're actually currently standing in the old potato patch. Those are in a nice dark container in the shed. Hopefully they don't sprout too soon, but that was a good little bumper harvest. So here we are in the section with our two raised garden beds. We made these garden beds out of some logs. I believe it's pine, local pine, that we milled ourselves. And I think we did this last winter. This is our second season using them, and it's been going great. They're not the most beautiful or perfect looking garden beds, but they work great. So what we have in here is this is our leafy greens in this section. This Swiss chard over here is actually a planting from spring. I've got a couple in there, one bolted, and I'm trying to get it to actually give me some seeds so I can harvest those and save those. This one here never bolted. It is a little bit more on the bitter side, so I've been using this as chicken treats, and they absolutely love it. How it didn't bolt through our hot summer, I have no idea. The lettuce did great through the spring, but of course I had to take all of that out because once the heat set in, all of it bolted and it just didn't taste great. So once again, that was great treats for the chicken. But since then, I have started new seedlings, and those are now planted in there. So we should have a good fresh lettuce crop here starting in probably a couple of weeks. Now, we do have deer here on our property, and what has worked for us is this little garden section. It's not quite blocked off entirely, but it is sectioned off. They do wander through here from time to time. But what I tried to do is I tried to put into these raised garden beds the types of plants and veggies and things that they are most likely to nibble on.
This way we can contain and protect the plants from the deer,
especially these leafy greens here. So what has actually worked for us is this deer netting. I don't know if you can quite see it in the camera lens or not. This has worked well for us for both the deer and our squirrels. We had quite a squirrel problem. They have since gone away thanks to our neighbor. I'll leave it at that. And yeah, this has just been working out great. What I do is when I need to enter in over on the other side, I just take off these little clips and I walk in and then I close it back up. All right, hopefully you can see me behind this tomato cage that absolutely did nothing. I learned later that tomato cages don't really help in all tomato situations. Case in point. However, this is a grape tomato plant. I forget the exact name of it, but it has been producing the sweetest grape tomatoes for us. And we literally just have this here for us to come and snack on. Like, they are so sweet. I never appreciated how sweet a tomato could be until we started growing our own. So good. This plant is looking kind of sad at this point because it's coming to the end of its life. It is a determinate tomato variety, which means it has a determined number of tomatoes that it will produce. And also our season is kind of coming to a close here, so it doesn't love the cold nights here. I also have a couple more tomato plants here in the back. I don't know if you can see them too well. This is the Pomodoro. It's not doing too well. This is the first time I'm growing these ones. I've gotten a few, but it's not very prolific. In the back, I have a tomato plant. It's called a Beaver Lodge tomato, and they're the rounder type of tomatoes that I think most of us are familiar with, that you put on hamburgers and whatnot. That is also looking pretty sad. It's coming to the end of its life because it is also a determinate tomato. We have been harvesting these for the last probably 6 weeks, and we've been having tomatoes pretty much with every meal. I love tomatoes, he loves tomatoes, so it's fantastic. And then all of the leftovers that we can't possibly eat I'm fermenting, I'm canning, and yeah, it's turning out great. So here's a little snippet of how I ferment my tomatoes. I make a salsa with one, and then another ferment that I do is making like a garlic and basil ferment. And those are, they're nice and tangy and zesty, and they should hold in our refrigerator for about 4 months. So come winter season, when we want something nice and tangy, that's not kind of that mushy canned tomato feel, out comes those fermented tomatoes.
Now I use a 3% brine, which is about 1 ounce of kosher salt to about 1 quart of non-chlorinated water. Now why ferment foods? Well, for one, it preserves food in a different way than canning or drying, but secondarily, it has incredible health benefits, especially with regard to digestion and blood sugar leveling. I'll place this in a dark place to ferment and burp for a couple of days, and then put it in the fridge for up to about 3 months.
Here I'm in the other garden bed that we have, and I have different tomatoes here. These are more of a Roma style tomato. These are indeterminate, so these will keep producing until the plant decides it doesn't like the weather, and it will just stop producing at that point. These are the ones that I primarily use for canning that we enjoy throughout the wintertime when I'm making stews and things of that nature. So these are super tasty. And basil is probably the first plant or culinary plant that I ever took care of. This was something that I always had on hand back when we lived in Southern California. I love fresh basil for everything. So I have your standard sweet basil. I have an Emily basil, which is great for pesto. I have a Tulsi basil, and I have a Thai basil. So we're on our third or fourth harvest right now for both parsley and cilantro. I have a parsley, which is probably going to go to seed. It's going to bolt pretty soon, but I have some succession plants in there. I think those are cilantro, but I have some parsley interspersed throughout. This will be a good shoulder season garden bed here. And I've got some beets, which I planted beets for the first time this past spring, and I didn't realize how much I love beets until I had them fresh once again. So our cucumber plant was very prolific this year. Actually, I take that back. Our 3 cucumber plants, they have overgrown and it looks like one giant monster now. It's coming to a close. It's not as happy as it once was, but it's still producing cucumbers. So as long as it keeps producing, I will still partake. There's one. And in here we have celery growing. This is the first time I've ever attempted celery. It takes up a lot of room in the garden bed. I don't know if we'll be doing this again because of that specific reason, but as soon as we harvest it, I'm curious as to how it will taste, because what I've learned is that you've never really tried celery until you've grown it yourself. Again, what we get in most grocery stores is picked far too early, or it just doesn't have the same amount of flavor to it that it does as if you grow it yourself. So we'll see. It should be ready to harvest pretty soon. They're getting pretty tall. They do take a lot of water. And I do grow a lot of peppers. This time I'm trying a new pepper. This is a cayenne pepper. It's called a Raja pepper, R-A-J-A-H, I believe. And it's supposed to have a beautiful flavor. So I'm letting this plant just ripen on the vine because I want them nice and bright red. And then my plan is to dry them for the most part. That way I can just have cayenne pepper along with regular cayenne that I'm growing over with the chili patch. I just want to start harvesting more of my own herbs the more that I can. So this is part of that process. And marigolds. Marigolds are just a standard in my garden, especially because they attract the ladybugs and other pollinators. The bumblebees love it. Everything loves it. And they're beautiful. And they last throughout the summer and into the late fall. They last pretty long. So I deadhead them. And I'm also saving these for the chickens, drying them because they will be helpful with egg production and really good yolks. And I've got some baby chard in here, some butter lettuce in there. So all of these will start producing now that the weather's starting to cool off just a bit. This was my first year trying strawberries, and the strawberry plant is in here. It's done fairly well. I keep it in this little makeshift cage that I made because we have a lot of finches around here. The lizards tend to get at this too, but they're not as bad. But yeah, it's just kind of fun to come over here and nibble every once in a while on a fresh, sweet strawberry. I'll probably try these again. I'll probably find a better spot, but that was a good test run for us. Okay, so here's something kind of funny. I absolutely love arugula. I love the spiciness. I love the bitterness of it, especially on a flatbread pizza, in a salad. Ruben does as well. So I planted arugula the year before last, way over there somewhere, and I had to transplant it. I moved it over there. It reseeded itself. It lasts a heck of a whole long time through the cold season. And it came to life again. Somehow it came over here. It's just spreading like wildfire. So somebody who doesn't like arugula would probably consider this a weed at this point, but I absolutely love it. These snuck up on me. This one is massive. So yeah, this is too far gone. I think the seeds will be too big and it'll be bitter, but the chickens will love it. I'm gonna try and speak up here because the wind is kind of kicking up a bit, but this is the spot of the garden that I am most excited about. For those of you from New Mexico, green chili harvest time. So I'm a little later here than I think it is in New Mexico as far as the time of harvest. Number one, these took a little bit longer to grow to be ready, but also I'm really behind. So some of this green chili is actually turning into red chili, which is just as well because last year I didn't give it a chance to ripen. I did want to leave a couple of these on the plant so that way they get overripe and that way I can harvest those seeds and use those to replant for next year, because if we can get seeds that really start to do well here in our area, that will be great. My hope though is that they don't cross-pollinate or morph into something else. I want to stay true to that New Mexico Hatch Green Chile flavor, but I need to harvest these like today because we're going to get a major rainstorm and I don't know what that will do for these chilies at this point. Really quickly, I have pinto beans growing here in the center. I don't know if you can tell, this is fishing line here. It does help to deter the deers. I've also planted green onions along as a border and the green chilies as a border because deer do not like peppers. And it's working to help keep them away from eating our beans so far. But here we've got beans on the vine, so I just need to let them harden. So these couple rows here, it's also green chili. It's quite ripe. They have definitely turned more red, but these are lumbre. These are not big gems, and the heat level on these is double extra hot. Okay, so here is the harvest of Big Jim chilies. I'm super happy with this. It's probably triple of what we did last year. I had 6 plants. So I don't know if this is a great harvest or not. Those of you that have grown green chili, specifically New Mexico green chili, let me know. It smells delicious. I cannot wait to roast this. These are the double extra hot. Here, this is the lumbre, and yeah, there's far more red chili in here, but I think it'll still be just fine. Now my plan was to roast these outside on the grill. I don't want to roast these in the house because our house is tiny and to roast all this green chili might choke us out. I'm gonna wait one more day and see if the weather clears up. If we don't have wind tomorrow, then I'm gonna roast these out on an open flame. It'll be a little bit easier. So I did leave 1 or 2 chilies on each plant just as a deer deterrent because they are surrounding the pinto beans that I have there and I need those to stay on. If I'm gonna make my own green chili stew, right? I mean, I've got the chili, we grew the onions, we grew the garlic, I have local beef from our neighbor, I have the chickens we raised. I don't know if I'll do beef or chicken. We grew our own potatoes. I have our own squash, but I won't put that in the chili. The corn didn't do so well, so I'm probably not gonna make calabacitas this year, but the chickens love it. Anyway, I'm super excited to soon make my own green chili stew from everything we grew here on the property. Well, the wind finally calmed down and I'm using the enclosed porch here just because it has this little barrier around here in case the wind does pick up. Yeah, it is green chili roasting time. So I know pretty much all of New Mexico smells like green chili roasting right now, and this certainly has a smell of home. So those of you that are not familiar, well, number one, New Mexico, like green chili runs in the blood, and red chili too, but more specifically green chili, and it's different than anywhere else. It's got a heat to it, got a flavor to it, and it's just, you can pretty much find it everywhere and in anything. You go to McDonald's, you go to Burger King, you go to any fast food place, you can always get green chili added to your burger. It's that serious there. I think there's green chili ice cream. There's even green chili white wine. It's a novelty. Some people like it. It's more used for cooking. I'll leave it there. So people do it differently. That's right, Mr. Rue. Some people use a comal, and a comal is like a cast iron skillet, but basically you just want to get that skin nice and charred that way later on. So this is what it looks like. Then later on you actually peel the skin off, and then you're left with the meat of the chili, and that can be used in so many different dishes. The most widely known is green chili stew, but this is the flavor that you cannot find in restaurants outside of New Mexico that do it correctly. There might be a couple in southern Colorado, but don't quote me on that. I know it doesn't look like I moved because I was here last night until it got dark, and then I was up just as light started to break this morning. So I'm trying to finish the other batch of the green chili roasting. But this morning I am using the comal here because these chilies are the lumbre chilies, and they're a little bit thinner, so they were falling through the cracks. So this is a little bit slower process, but it's still working just fine. And we got a little more rain last night, and the mountain got a little bit of snow. That's right, sweets. That's right, little Ray. Oh, you want to go for a walk? You want to go out? So, good morning from the homestead.
And then there is the peeling of the chili, the bagging, and the freezing.
Okay, I'm over here at the water pump because it's time to turn it on to fill up our cistern. But on my way over here, I noticed we have a visitor, so I'm going to take you on a little walk. So surprise, surprise, we have a cow on the other side of our property yet again. So this is a recurring thing that seems to be happening. It happened once or twice last year, but it's happening a lot this year. All right, we are on the other side of the property, and we have been irrigating with one section of our water irrigation system right here. So as you can see, it's a little bit more green than kind of the rest of the area. Now, the cows are escaping from over there, which is our neighbor's property. So this year we have had many cows who keep making their way over to our side. All right, so we know the grass is always greener, right? And for whatever reason, they like this green grass here, even though they have great green grass over there. This one in particular has been coming over for the last 2 weeks. The rest have kind of been staying away. However, this is still an issue because these cows are not ours. They're not our neighbors, but our neighbor rents their pasture to a tenant who brings their cows over for the duration of the summertime. Now, we figured out how they're getting over. And as I mentioned, if you saw the previous video about, it was like 10 or 12 cows that made their way over, and they made their way out onto the highway, which was pretty scary, especially at night, because if they're black cows, that's a dangerous thing if people are coming down the highway. So they make their way over from the ditch that meanders through 3 or 4 of our properties. So it doesn't make it very easy to solve for X of whose responsibility is it? How do we fix it? And also the variable of when there's water in the ditch. So let me explain. So you can see right along here, the cattle panel, and as the water's flowing, all of that debris is piling up behind the water, and that can subsequently cause flooding here and over on our side. Now, we don't necessarily care about free water, but it does prevent the pastures down the stream from being able to flood irrigate their water, their pastures, excuse me. All right, so we have the black heifer over there, and then we have the rest of her herd over there. Now I'm walking all along our fence line, and we've walked this numerous times, and there is no hole in our fence line. So the cattle are not getting over through the fence. They are getting over, we think, through one specific spot at the ditch. So I'm following a little game trail here that follows our fence line. And here we are to the section where most likely the issue is happening. And as you can see, hoof prints all along there. You can see the cattle panel goes across there, and then it is open. All right, I'm gonna get down a little closer. I don't want to get in the mud. So when the water is flowing that direction through our ditch, it's not usually an issue that the cows will try and come through the water up or down and then back up this embankment. Sometimes they do, but for the most part, when the water's running, they don't come. But now, as you can see, there's hardly any water. Sometimes it's totally dry, and it's basically just an underpass for the cows to come through. So as you can see down there, there's a little bit of debris, and maybe you can see a wood pallet right there. So the tenant who rents the land to graze their cattle, when the water is not flowing, they will come and put that pallet back here, and it prevents the cows from coming over. Now, they're not often made aware in time that water will soon be running. So sometimes the water in the ditch will start running. I think it's the county who decides this. Again, not sure. So sometimes whomever is available has to come and grab the pallet out, and there can be a lot of water here. But then sometimes they're not made aware that the water is going to stop, so then we have this open hole like today, and now we have this cow on the other side of our property. So I'm hoping that maybe some of you can give us an idea or two, maybe you've been through this, to help us make it a little bit more automated. Now, when I say we, I don't necessarily mean that Ruben and I are coming out and doing this ourselves. The cattle are not our responsibility, nor do we lease the land to the cattle owners, but we want to be good neighbors. And the issue is that they come onto our property, right? And as you saw when I turned on the water pump, if the cow decides she wants to scratch her back on that water pump, she could very easily break the whole thing. And that would be very expensive and very bad because we rely on that for our water. In addition to that, it's a power supply for our shipping containers, and it's just our infrastructure, right? We don't want that messed up. Do we care if cows are over here and, spreading manure? No, because that makes our soil more healthy, but we don't want them breaking anything. And we definitely don't want them to get hurt because our gate is open very often. We're not thinking about cattle because we don't own any. They can get out onto the highway, which they've done, and they've gone into our neighbor's area. They've gone into their barn. They could, do some serious damage, and we just want to avoid that. So, is there something that we can do that doesn't require machinery that will maybe float? I'm thinking styrofoam, but I don't want to put styrofoam in here, but that concept where there's some sort of a floaty thing that goes down when there's no water in it, but then when there's water flowing, it comes up to allow debris to pass. Because if the debris backs up here, then we get a major flood situation, and that's what we don't want. So just throwing this out there, if anybody has any ideas, we'd love to hear them. Let us know in the comments.
Well, family, that wraps up the harvest update for the week. Soon, this will all be fully harvested, and we'll be prepping for a time of soil rest and recharge during the winter months. It looks like Ruben will be shifting from long shop hours to a spell at fire camp. Check back next week for more updates. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Green chili stew. I have pinto green pepper is underripe. The ripe pepper. I don't mean us like me.